before Kellyn comes on, which she'll be on in a sec, what should we tell the audience about how fit she was beforehand?
I mean, I think she was ready to, be right up there to the front as well. Like, she was crushing everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little more naive on terms of what women's workouts mean to race performance, but yeah, she was crushing.
She was crushing. Well, here she is. We'll have her on now. We're going to take her through this thing. Once she connects here to her audio, she's muted right now, but she'll be on in a sec. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hey, Kellyn.
Hi.
How excited are you to talk about this marathon, Kellyn?
I mean, I didn't really enjoy the race itself, so.
It was a crazy day. So Scott and I were talking about how nuts it was when you guys got on the bus and went out there, and what was the vibe like in the church? What were you thinking when you were sitting in there in the church getting ready to go out and all this?
I mean, I think that both Scott and I still had a pretty level head about it. It was nuts, but I don't think that, at least I wasn't really prepared for what was to come. I guess you could say that maybe I was a little bit naive going into the race, like thinking like, oh yeah, whatever. I grew up in Wisconsin. I've ran in, below zero weather many, many times and been fine. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was pretty chaotic. The whole entire day was pretty chaotic. Yeah, I don't know. I'll never forget it.
Well, before we get into the play-by-play of what happened once the race got going for you, let's go back in time. I've certainly done this. It's really a moot point and a sort of a stupid thing to do because it just makes you mad at yourself. But if you could go back, what would you have worn?
Not what I did.
What did you wear, and what would you have worn?
Well, I basically just had on my regular uniform, so like my short shorts and my crop top, and then I had a long sleeve shirt on over top of that, and my regular hat and gloves, and a little ball cap, or a cap that John Hancock had given us for from like our race packet, and that was it. I think definitely if I would change things if I could. I would have worn a waterproof coat, maybe tights. Probably would have layered up maybe to an unnecessary level. You can shed clothes, but you can't put more clothes on. And I think that sometimes when we get into that race mentality, you kind of forget that and, think that you have to kind of go out in your race gear, like that's your uniform. You have to wear that every single time, but that's clearly not always the right choice. And that was one of those days where, it was not the right choice. We definitely should have worn more.
I took those off. Peter says my sunglasses were distracting him. In a text message, but these are my Rudy Project sunglasses.
Oh, nice.
Well played.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned it, but I do think we learned from it. Is that why you wore then? I know the answer to this, but is that why we wore the jacket then at the start of the trials race a few weeks ago?
It is. I think I still have a little bit of PTSD from this Boston race. Like it was just unbelievable. But yeah, I didn't want to go into that race, and the weather wasn't that bad before the trials, but I didn't want to go into the race and really be cold to any degree. And I knew that wearing the jacket, which Steph and Alethine wore their long sleeves, but I chose to wear the jacket because I wear a hat. And for me, it would have been harder to take something off over my head than it was to unzip. So yeah, that was why I wore that.
Yeah. Our advice there to everybody is, or what the kind of strategy we take now is, because the marathon is so long, it's not like a mile where you're running as hard as you can for 4 or 5 minutes and you get very warm. In the marathon, it's so long, you're not starting out at this crazy fast pace, particularly you guys that day, Kellyn. The women started out very slowly, so your body temperature doesn't shoot up like it does in a shorter, really fast race. And so what we do now is we think to ourselves, okay, if this was a long workout on Lake Mary Road, what would we wear? And oftentimes we would layer up and then we would shed the layer. So we're just going to try to do the same thing in the race that we would do in that long workout. Scott, would you have wore anything different?
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with Kellyn that I still didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was on the start line. I wore that kind of thin long sleeve that we have, fully intending on taking it off at some point. I was just like, it's not gonna be that bad. Like, I've never not worn my singlet across the finish line, like I've never been in something where I needed to be this layered up. Like, that was the most I think Kellyn and I had very similar layering, and that's by far the most I've worn for a race.
Okay,
so
let's look at this, Scott. Sorry to interrupt. Kellyn, so what is this like here? Everybody's dancing around. Are you starting to realize, oh my God, this is way worse than I thought, or does that not happen until you get going?
I mean, it didn't really happen until we started going, because we warmed up outside. We did our mile or so warm up out there, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, this is going to be a day. I don't know, hopefully a good day, but it's going to be a day that you're definitely going to remember. But it wasn't really until the race started going that everything just started kind of just going crazy. Like, it was just one of those things where, like, I look back and it was like, look to my right, what's going on? Look to my left, what the heck is happening? Like, Serena Burla is running, grabbing like a plastic bag off the side of the road, and like, I don't know, it was chaos the whole entire day.
Now you're friends with Des. Had you talked to her much this morning at all, or did you guys kind of keep to yourselves?
I think that nothing outside of more than like, I don't know, it's going to be crazy out there. Maybe it was the most that we had said. Yeah, nothing super extreme.
Now, once it gets going, because we're only going to have you on a few more minutes. Once it gets going here, then how long did it take for you to realize that you were possibly in some trouble physically?
That's a good question. I don't know if I really have an answer for that. The race started out pretty slow for the women. We didn't get moving, and that could have been one of our problems. We just didn't get to a pace where our bodies were having to work hard enough to really warm up. I just know that when I was running, I was shivering the whole entire time. Like, my teeth were chattering the whole race. So yeah. I think that when you have that going on, obviously you're losing energy and you're not warming up when you're working really hard. There's definitely going to be problems. That, and then also paired with the fact that, I mean, it didn't really matter because I only made it 13 miles, but I couldn't grab my water bottles because my hands were so cold. Like, I couldn't get the bottle open. I couldn't get fluids into me. So, maybe if I would have stayed in and could have finished, then that would have become an issue. But I don't know. It was nuts.
I think the other issue, and you'll see it here, is you guys start out at a jog. I think that really hurt the women. We'll talk about Scott's race later when it gets started, but the men started out kind of like bats out of hell. They took off like crazy thanks to Yuki, but you guys sort of did the thing where you felt each other out and you were kind of jogging along. And I think your body temperature actually probably dropped, because for you guys, this is such an easy pace that you start out at. Did you have any thought of getting going and getting it moving a little bit more?
I mean, I didn't. I think that it was kind of the same thing as like the dress mentality. Like, this is a championship style race and you just want to put yourself in a good position, and preferably that's not you taking the lead super early in a marathon. If I could go back and do it again, yeah, maybe I would do that, but I also would have worn more clothes, as would most people that ran it. So, lessons learned.
I'm just watching this, Kellyn, and I just can't believe how cold people look at the start. Serena didn't wear any. No wonder she had to steal a plastic bag later. She doesn't have anything on top there. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, crazy. It was madness.
That's making me cold looking at it. Well, I remember talking. So Des has a jacket on. It's the famous jacket, of course, that she won the race in. And I was telling Scott that I was lifting weights with her husband that morning, and she was texting him, what should I wear? And I remember him telling her, just wear the jacket. You can always take it off.
Yeah.
And of course, she never took it off because nobody took anything off. Right. But it's just kind of funny knowing that happened. I remember Scott telling me he doesn't need it. He runs hot.
I'm really glad I didn't have to drop out, or else I would have never lived those words down.
I run hot. That's what he said. Oh, my gosh, you guys are jogging.
Kellyn, it was so slow.
It's so slow. I do remember when I could see you, let's see. Sorry. Okay, I'm just getting notes about the broadcast here. People are liking it, I think. So when I saw you, I could tell you looked cold. I mean, I remember seeing you on Saturday when we were signing autographs or whatever. You were signing autographs, and your lips were getting blue just that day. I think sometimes, I don't know how to say this delicately, but one of the things that happened with the pros as opposed to the masses, a couple things. Number one, again, you guys are jogging here. This is so much slower than you can go. And I think the majority of the masses still go out at whatever pace they want to run. It's not a championship style race for them. So their body temperature rises a lot quicker than particularly the women's race here. Also, you guys are just very lean people, you know, you're very, very fit, and don't have the body mass of someone like myself. So I just think that's why, in my opinion, the pros had such a higher dropout rate than the masses. It's not because the pros were weak or not as tough as the masses. I don't think that was it at all. I just think science took over. And like for you, tell the viewers just what was happening to your body.
Well, it just felt like it was kind of shutting down. You know, I remember that when I got to, I don't know, the 12.5 mile mark or wherever it was that I was about to drop out, some guy was like kind of making the rounds through the course and like asked somebody else. He was like, are you okay escorting somebody off? And then he like asked me, and most of the time, you know this from like practice or from anything else, I would have just given you like this evil glare and just kept going, but there really wasn't even an option. It was just like, no, I'm not okay. And basically I left the course, and continued to shiver for like the next hour, covered in blankets and, you know, whatever else they had in the fire station. So I don't know. I think that there really wasn't a choice. As far as I was concerned, I've went back to it many times, and I've always come to the same conclusion. Like, you know, maybe I could have made it a little bit further, but I wasn't going to finish that race.
Yeah. Can I add to that real quick about
Sure.
the toughness involved and people being forced to drop out and whatnot? Like people have always said like about this race, it was the toughest people that did the best. And I think that's true to an extent, but like some of the toughest people, Kellyn being at the top of the list, were forced to drop out. Vale was forced to drop out. Kellyn just got 8th place at the Olympic trials on a broken leg. Like there are some very, very tough people that were forced to drop out. Like exactly what Kellyn just said, it wasn't a decision. And only you kind of know if you're somebody else in the race who was unable to finish, if it was a toughness thing or if it was like, I'm in danger. And there's a difference there. And sometimes you don't know the difference until someone comes and asks, like, are you okay?
Yes. So now, Kellyn, you're in the fire station, you're shivering, you've got blankets all over you. Are you even aware of what's going on in the race? Do you even care? I mean, when did you find out, like, for example, that Des won the race?
Well, I was in the fire station for a long time. So I did actually get to see the end of the race, like on the TV, because they have a TV there. But, you know, I went into the fire station. Basically, they covered me in like 2 coats and blankets and, you know, asked me, I don't know how many times if I wanted to go to the hospital. And I said no. And eventually got warm. And, you know, they kept taking more people in because more people kept dropping out. So we kind of had this little group up in their upstairs hangout lounge, and we got to see the end of the race. And it was really cool, to be honest. Like, I was super bummed, and everybody that was in the room watching it with me was super bummed because they had to drop out of their races as well. But it was still really exciting, you know, to have an American woman and somebody who deserved it, like Des did. You know, it was really cool.
Yeah. And we can't leave without letting the viewers, or reminding the viewers, that you did get a chance for redemption 61 days later at Grandma's, and showed how fit you were before this race when you won that event in 2:24. And I see some similarities in what you did there to maybe what a lot of viewers are feeling who would have been running Boston today and now have to wait. What would your advice be for someone, because it's not totally different, you know, they had this big goal and it got taken away from them by forces outside of their control, just like what happened to you. So how did you come back, and how did you refocus for another race?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that all the training that you have done didn't go to waste. You still get to bank that training. It still goes into your bank of fitness, and you can capitalize on it on your next go. So, if that's in the fall, fantastic. You'll have this great training block that you just did to carry in the fall. And with the marathon, I think that a lot of the time it's cumulative miles, cumulative work that leads to the big results. So, just keep chipping away. Eventually something will pop up that we can run, and hopefully it's a good day.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kellyn. We really appreciate you reliving this for us, and enjoy the rest of your day. If you want to watch this, go ahead. Maybe it'll bring back maybe not good memories, but some memories. And you've had a lot of good success since then. So hopefully you've been able to put this behind you.
Yeah.
Will you run Boston again?
Yeah, I'm going to run Boston again. I have to get some redemption. I wasn't ready for it last year, but, we'll see. Hopefully here one of these next couple of years.
All right. Thanks, Kellyn. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Kick her off.
I'm kicking her off. I almost hit rename instead of remove. Okay. So that was cool. I don't think we really ever dug into it that much with her. And I didn't know that she saw the end at the fire.
No, I didn't. I don't think I knew that either. All I know about the firehouse is that Kyle was upset about how expensive the Uber ride was.